So the first discussion topic, the need for a roadmap. Now, I say that this is sort of important. After Horizons, FDEV indicated that they would not be continuing with the whole quote-unquote season pass situation. They didn't like that. They would be looking to do more sort of completed content drops going forward. But I posit that Odyssey will not be a complete product on May 19th, and as such, it will require further content additions and product improvement to be a complete and viable product. The major concerns here are, number one, will FDEV move on to scheduled dev cycles on other products? They have many games they're doing now. They're doing, Planet Zoo, Planet Coaster, Planet Dinosaur, Warhammer's coming up, and Planet Formula One, and all the other crap that they're doing. Those things all have their own product schedules and developmental timelines, and those things are going to come knocking saying, hey, you got everybody on all hands on deck on Elite right now. We need people for this project and that project. We have our stuff scheduled. So I think that is a concern. Another very big concern for me is if extensive development activity will be budgeted for Odyssey going forward, will it be focused on more FPS stuff, or will it be focused on filling out the non-FPS game loops, or will it be some hybrid of the two? Because I have said very, very clearly that it is my belief that they should say FPS is pretty much good as it is right now. Stop chasing FPS and go back to putting in stuff in all of the other loops that sort of got gutted so they would have a finished product for FPS. You need to have real exploration stuff for exobiology. You need to have real stuff for scavenging and hacking. Everything was sort of the minimal viable product just so they could focus on FPS. Now they need to focus on the other stuff. Now, I think if David Braben were to do a talk with a rough roadmap, no hard details or timelines are needed, just general talk with broad strokes to say, like, we intend to do this, this, and this as we progress for the next, period of time. And then we will sort of put Odyssey more in a ongoing live service as opposed to a like hard crunch development mode. I think a talk like that, and it doesn't have to be David, but let's be honest, you walk in scoring a ton of points just off the bat if it's David. I think that would do a ton to really give people, it would buy a ton of goodwill and an understanding from the player base who on May 19th are not going to be looking at that sort of great of an experience. I think that Odyssey has a chance to be really, really great going forward, but I don't think we're going to see that greatness on May 19th itself. Let's start off with your thoughts, Astro.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree that having a roadmap, I think, is going to be super important, and it's not something they should wait half a year or a year with coming out with. Before the announcement of Odyssey, we had this really weird vacuum in Elite where we didn't know what the future was. There was like, we now got the fourth of the promised updates for the Beyond series, and we didn't really know what was the future of Elite here. And I think, especially when you're pulling in new players, I know a lot of players, they will look at the game and they'll say, oh, this is cool, but they're also going to look at Elite and say, this is a 6-7-year-old game now. Is there a future in this game? Is it still active? Is it still being developed on? And for those people, it is super important that you can go and say, yes, we have this plan for the next, let's say, year. And as you say, I don't need to say we're gonna get this feature on that day and this feature on that day. The broad strokes they did with the update where they said, like, okay, so spring, summer, fall, winter, that kind of thing. Basically Q1, Q2, Q3 was Q4. That's fine. But again, the broad strokes, what are kind of the overall thing. That being said, I personally think that they are going to be keeping a focus on Elite until the console release. Because I think you're absolutely right in your analysis that they have been focusing on the shooter part of it, and then a lot of the other game loops have been hopefully will be added later, and I think they will be added with the console release because they need that. They need to re-roll that hype train as we get close to console release. So there's a lot of talk about the game again when we get up, so they can kind of alleviate off that when they comes on console. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of content coming to Odyssey in the period from after the 19th to the console release in the fall. But I think we're going to see some stuff being added together with the console release when it comes out. And after that, roadmap would be nice, yeah.
Let me ask you, I personally think that come May 19th, Frontier is going to have some tough days from the press and from people's opinions on just the initial state of Odyssey launch. And I could be dead wrong, but I feel that. Don't you think that before May 19th, if on the eve of that, if come, whatever, between now and May 19th, if David Braben were to do a short talk to say, here's what Odyssey launch is going to be, roughly, and here's what we intend to do, over the next 6 months. Again, just broad strokes. Don't you think that would buy a lot of goodwill?
Absolutely. I think it would. And also it's going to put that unease at rest with people being, so what now when we have Odyssey, and people are going to be excited about it. But it's only going to be at tops a month after Odyssey is launched before people begin to ask, so what's next? I mean,
yeah, that's fair.
They're the first people beginning to get fully engineered weapons and suits, and we're beginning to figure out how the meta is going to work, and people are going to begin to look forward, saying, where are we heading now? And so I think we need some kind of is Elite still running? We know that Frontier from all their financial statements that they are planning to have an income from Elite for the foreseeable future. So it's not like they're going to shut down the servers, but having an income and still actively developing on it is still two very different things.
Yeah. They said when they brought back Galnet and community goals, we are going to do this up to 2022. We're committing to that. Well, folks, 2022 is 6 months away. It would also be nice to hear a little like, oh yeah, we committed to that cycle and we're going to then start the next cycle after that, as opposed to we're committed to that cycle and then we're going to turn it all off again. That would, I think that would be disastrous.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing Frontier doing that, to be honest. I mean, they've spent... I mean, if Frontier were just looking for like a quick final cash grab before they close down Elite, or at least put it into non-active development, they're just doing bug fixing and that kind of stuff, I don't think they would have done the huge graphic update for it. It seems like a really, really weird thing to do if all you were looking for was just like one final quick cash grab before you put it to bed. The fact that they've done so much work on the graphic side of Elite tells me that they are trying to get that graphic engine that is now, as we said, six-ish years old, get that up to date so it looks a little bit more modern, so that Elite can have a future hopefully well beyond 2022.
Oh, I agree 100%, but let's keep in mind that before they turned on the Galnet and the CGs again last October, before then, they had it running for about 2 years without really, CGs and Gal. I mean, in a year, they had done like 3 Galnet stories. They didn't bother to do any Galnet stories when fleet carriers were launched. So there's nothing to say that they couldn't say, okay, we're going to turn off Galnet again for another year or two, and then we'll turn it back on with the next release of stuff. You never know. Tweaked, what do you think about all this?
Well, I'll go right back to the very beginning. Their statement about they're not going to do a content, a dribble of content edition after the release anymore. I didn't really understand where they were coming from in that regard, because Elite Dangerous is not Fortnite. It is not Call of Duty where you can develop a map, throw the map in the game and call it a day. It's never going to be that kind of game. So to me, Elite Dangerous begs them to do what they've done with Horizons, and probably what they're going to do with Odyssey is put the base of it in and then put all the trimmings in around it. So I don't really understand why they're thinking that way to begin with.
And what are your feelings on the idea of if they were to do a roadmap before Odyssey launch to give people some ideas?
Oh, I think a roadmap is almost necessary at this point. Do I believe they're going to give us one? Not necessarily, but yeah, I absolutely do. It would be so comforting as a longtime player of this game, 3,000-4,000 hours in, to hear, okay, Odyssey's out, now we're going to add this. And like Astro said, I don't need any hard dates. I don't need any hard times that this is when we're hoping to have it, but this is the direction we're going to go. And that would make me feel so much better. And I'd actually take that a step further into a different direction and say from May 19th to the fall, I would kind of, for all us console players, I'd like a roadmap along that route too, just to make sure, just to make us feel a little better about the way everything's going.
Oh, let me be clear. I think that a roadmap right now dropped before Odyssey launch is massively good for Frontier, is good. You know that old saying, you only get one chance to make a first impression? If you look at the stream that Dr. K and Pierce did like 2 weeks ago, there were so many people that had been frustrated through the whole alpha process and were saying, this doesn't look right, this doesn't whatever. And then Dr. K and Pierce came on and said like, hey guys, this is just, you get the idea. This is a branch off the trunk. This is, whatever. There were so many people that I heard made the comment, if I would have heard that before the alpha started and had a different sort of place in my mind of what the alpha was, I would have been so much less worried or less frustrated or less angry during the alpha. I think it's very, very important for them. The reason why you do the roadmap before Odyssey launches even is because if you say the right things to reassure people, now, sure, there's going to be some people out there that take a certain approach to it where they're going to be very uncharitable to what is said and are going to say, it's all lies, lies, lies. Okay. A lot of the people that want to believe, a lot of the fans of the game are then going to say, oof, I'm a little frustrated that this feels bare bones or this feels whatever, but David Braben told me they're working on this, hasn't steered me wrong so far, so I'm going to trust, I'm going to believe, I'm going to not be upset now. Once people get upset and then you do a roadmap, that only goes halfway. That doesn't, it buys much more if you make that investment early, I believe. What do you think, Astro?
I really didn't like that void we had after Beyond, and I would really like not to have it. If we're going to make it before, I think if they really want to stretch it, I would say the very latest they could get away with a roadmap would be the console launch. Because until then, we kind of know, okay, Frontier's working on the console launch. Are they going to add more stuff and things with the console launch? Well, my fingers are crossed, I hope so. But after that, we know nothing. It's once again, you're heading into the black, and you don't know if the next update is 2 months or 2 years away. So after that point, we are once again in this like vacuum. I think that is the latest point when a roadmap should come out, and I hope they will do some kind of roadmap. Or maybe not even a roadmap. You say, hey, we are working on the next update. We don't have a date for you yet, but it's coming. Okay,
just tell us what it's going to be. You're going to get different kind of atmospheres to land on. You're going to get ship interiors eventually. Just tell us things that are coming, and
as I think the player
base will be sedated.
As a living game, I honestly think I think they need to do a roadmap right now so that it kind of just eases the pain of Odyssey drop, the launch, the first day launch, and assures people that more is coming. Relax. But over and above that, as a living game, I very much think that Frontier should shift to a policy of constantly having a roadmap. I think they should do a roadmap every 6 months with just broad strokes. It doesn't have to be hard dates and specifics, but just say, guys, we hear you on ship interiors. Guys, we're definitely looking at continuing the atmospheric spectrum. Guys, we're thinking of this. We're figuring out that. Broad strokes, but I think I think Frontier has been very, very poor in their communications for a while. Be in their best interest. It would just make their people make their fans, make their customers more happy, more reassured, more willing to give their love to the product if they were to continue to sort of do roadmaps.
Credit where credit's due. The Frontier has become a lot better at communicating and managing expectations than they were in the past. So they definitely made steps in the right direction. And I will agree. It's difficult because I know Frontier love to keep secrets, and they love to like really surprise people with, oh my god, there's this extra thing coming out. You can see how much they've gone out of their way to hide things in the alpha because they didn't want to show us engineers, they didn't want to show us Guardian sites, they didn't want to show us Starguards, all that stuff that has been hidden away and God knows what else. And they love those surprises. They love people getting that, oh my god, mind blow at launch day kind of thing. And those two things with having an open, transparent roadmap versus you want to keep things secret and surprise people at launch are kind of like working against each other, right?
Here's what I love about you, Astro. You are a sweet, sweet summer child that believes that they chose to hold those things back and not that they didn't have them finished yet.
So I think Frontier has been very, very conscious about what they wanted to test in the different phases, and I think they held it out on purpose because they would only. I think you're right that some of it wasn't finished, but I think it's because they really only wanted to show what was as close to a finished product as possible. And that's only a subset of what was in Odyssey, but they only wanted to show that. That's why we haven't seen all the different settlement types. So what did I say? 18 new settlement types that we haven't seen in the alpha. And absolutely, they were not in the alpha because they weren't ready when they took the branch of the trunk. That's no doubt about that. But we also, from when that branch was made, like a month and a half of developing time from the alleged 100 people. That's quite a bit of developing time that they put into Odyssey since that trunk was branched.